sweet it is. Thank you. What a great night it is for Louisiana. And to God be the glory. My love for this state deepens with every day that I have the honor to serve as your governor, because every day I get to meet more Louisianans who remind me how blessed we are to call this great state home. The goodness, the decency, the generosity of the people of Louisiana inspire me. Just look around this room. This room looks like the great state of Louisiana. And this is your night even more than it is mine. You didn't just vote for me. You voted for 4 more years of putting Louisiana first. You may have heard me say once or twice that God will order our steps, but we have to move our feet. And you moved your feet to the polls. You picked up phones and you handed out yard signs. You gave your neighbors a ride to the voting precincts. All of you have a reason why this election was important to you. And it may not be the same reason, but it's your collective experiences that make up the story of Louisiana. And by the way, you showed a lot of good sense because you also voted to re-elect my wonderful wife, Donna, as your First Lady. Donna has been the love of my life since I was in the 7th grade, y'all. She's been my wife for more than 30 years. But over the past 4 years, she has won the hearts of the people of Louisiana. She has worked tirelessly on behalf of Louisiana's children, and I know she's looking forward to continuing that work. I also want to thank my children, because they have sacrificed a lot of time with their papa. And I will tell you, my wife and my children had to endure nastiness and silliness that should never be inflicted on anybody. But you know, no matter how busy this job gets, we always find time, me and my family, to be together. And we have shared some pretty special memories over the past few years, whether it's going fishing with John Miller, alligator hunting with Sarah Ellen, or celebrating Samantha's wedding to Jonathan. And we did that a few years ago at the governor's mansion. But you know, I also want to thank my mother and my brothers and my sister. And I want to thank my in-laws as well, Bobby and Helen. Look, I could not have asked for a more supportive family. And the reason they believed in me is because they know the lessons instilled in us by our parents have guided my steps as governor, especially our faith and our belief in social justice. You know, I also want to tell you that I have been blessed with the hardest working, smartest campaign staff that there has ever been. And I want to thank Richard Carbo and all the folks who work for me. I told them on the very first day that we were not going to be outworked, and we were not outworked. They poured their hearts into this campaign because they knew that turning back on our progress was quite simply not an option. And to my staff in the governor's office and my chief of staff, Mark Cooper, and all the people who work for me, Jay Darden, Matthew Block, and all my cabinet officials. I want to thank all of you for your hard work during our first term, and I want to thank you for the good work. You know, we faced some major challenges that first year in office, from the budget crisis to historic flooding. But together, we proved that there is no challenge that we cannot overcome. And one of the first people to share our vision for a better Louisiana was Linda Day, who led our first campaign for governor. You know, Linda passed away earlier this year after battling cancer. But I know that she is here in spirit tonight, and she is proud of the campaign that we ran. You know, I had an opportunity to speak with Eddie Risponi earlier this evening. And I want you to know I thanked him for putting himself out there for public service. It's a difficult thing for anyone to do. We both agreed that the time for campaigning is over, and now our shared love for Louisiana is always more important than the partisan differences that sometimes divide us. And as for the president, God bless his heart. You know, this administration began with a breeze of hope. Hope that by working together as Louisianans first and foremost, not as Republicans or Democrats, we could make Louisiana the state that we want it to be. And with every step forward, we turned that hope into action, and that is exactly what we're going to continue to do in our second term. You know, during the campaign, you heard me talk a lot about the progress we made. But in the words of the great Louisiana writer Ernest Gaines, who we lost last week, everything has been said, but it needs saying again. We worked together to solve the largest budget deficit in the history of Louisiana. Today, more than 460,000 Louisianans have access to life-saving health care that they didn't have before I became governor. TOPS is fully funded, and we are finally reinvesting in our universities, our community colleges, and our technical colleges. We gave our teachers their first pay raise in a decade. And we made a $20 million down payment on my number one priority for the second term, and that is early childhood education. We've invested more than $2.8 billion in critical infrastructure improvements to our roads, our bridges, and our ports. And today, we can say that our economy is the biggest it has ever been. Personal income is the highest it has ever been. Unemployment is at a 12-year low. And we've attracted 175 major economic development projects, resulting in new capital investment that exceeds $41.5 billion and resulting in more than 36,000 jobs created. That's what we've been able to do. But as much as we've accomplished, you will agree, and I'm the first to acknowledge, there is much work to be done. Over the next 4 years, we're going to increase workforce training, invest more in education at every level, beginning with early childhood. We're going to improve the health outcomes of Louisianans, and we're going to continue advancing major infrastructure projects. And we will continue to fight for an increase in the minimum wage, because $7.25 is not a meaningful minimum wage. And we're also going to make sure that we pay women what we pay men when they do the same job and have the same qualifications. I know that we can achieve all of this and more, because I've seen what we can do when we work together for the good of our state that we call home. If this campaign has taught us anything, it's that the partisan forces in Washington, D.C. are not strong enough to break through the bonds that we share as Louisianans. I have crisscrossed this state from Bastrop to Houma, from Sulphur to St. Joseph. And no matter where I go, whether it's the ballrooms or the union halls, the classrooms, church pews, festivals, or football fields, I am reminded that there is far more that unites us than divides us. You know, we always talk about how unique and beautiful our state is. Case in point, we tailgate and we vote on the same day. And we had universities score 3 big wins in the great state of Mississippi today. Most importantly, we all scored a big victory in the great state of Louisiana today. You know, here in Louisiana, we march to the beat of our own second line. We are rich in culture, natural resources, and diversity. It's what makes our great state. And tonight, the people of Louisiana have chosen to chart their own path. You know, I have never been more hopeful that Louisiana's best days are ahead because we've proven what we can do when we put people over politics. Don and I are incredibly humbled by the trust you've placed in us. I told you 4 years ago, I would not let you down. For the next 4 years, I promise to work just as hard for you. And from the very bottom of my heart, thank you. I love you. Now let's get back to work together for the great state of Louisiana. Thank you.
The Weekman was from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network and our family of iHeartRadio, Twitter, Facebook, Google Podcasts, the Apple version of Google Podcasts, Speaker, Streaker, Snitcher, excuse me, I didn't mean Speaker, sorry about that. But anyway, that is some of the places. You can find us, of course, on Twitter. Twitter is a very convenient outlet for these episodes here. We're at episode now about, looked at the approximate one, but we're closing in on 4,000 of the Boston Red series. Some of the others are less there. Our other family of podcasts, of course, Numbers Man has been going a long time. We do it normally once a week. That is the macroeconomics program known as the Numbers Man Show. And we have an open source report, incidentally, up where we look at a number of things, including codes of conduct. There was a controversy over code of conduct at one of the conferences by the Linux Foundation that they had revoked some characters' registration to that conference. Let's see, what was the conference? Anyway, I don't have it in front of me here, what the conference was. And no, it was not Python. It was Kubernetes. Anyway, for those open source officios out there, aficionados or whatever, as Dave would say, Dave Jones, check him out. He's at the EEB blog, very good blogger in Australia. Anyway, and he also has a very good episode on the new regulations involving children's programming on YouTube. We don't do children's programming here, unless I assume that you'd think some of the well, we did have the baby flying in the balloon, but that was supposed to be DJ Trump. He could obviously not be a child. But anyway, nonetheless, some of the things going on around here, you can of course find us on the RSS feed also. Some of the ways that you can find it. Nonetheless, we're on the 17th of November, 2019. It's Boston Red here in the Jerry Pippin broadcast booth. We're going to do it a little bit different today we normally do. The week was. We'll start out with the victory speech of John Bel Edwards in the state of Louisiana. He was speaking to his supporters after his historic defeat of the Republican candidate. DJ Trump made 3 trips to Louisiana, and he couldn't bring the bacon home. he ended up with hot dogs or bologna. That was the score right there. And I noticed in some of the monopoly media outlets, they state that John Bel Edwards won by a narrow margin. Well, in today's politics, and we're always appreciative of our people at is it JVC Analytics? Anyway, there in Louisiana, they had it a 1-point race. It ended up a little over a 2-point race, very, very close in the margin of error. But nonetheless, when he won by 40, this is Governor Edwards by 40,000 votes, and we'll break that down to you in a minute here. Whereas in the state of the Commonwealth, actually, of Kentucky, the governor there, Blevin, was defeated by about 4,500. I think it ended up about 5,000 votes. Andy Beshear there, the son of the former governor Beshear there in Kentucky. So that has been two races, governor's races, that DJ Trump tried to pull out and hasn't been able to pull them out. The Trump people, and of course Trump evidently went to visit Walter Reed. Really, I'm not sure why he was there. I don't think it was his annual physical, but who knows. But he is under pressure, there's no doubt about it, with the inquiry going on the Ukrainian matter, and more of those as they come up, people that are testifying behind closed door. I think there were two this weekend, one on Friday night, and that information is coming out there. We're watching very carefully to see if it's affecting his polling numbers. In the Fox poll, he actually went up. We'll get to some polling numbers in a minute here. And we'll look at Iowa and what the little mayor from South Bend is able to do. He's up by, 8 or 9 points in the Tulsa poll there in Iowa. And we'll talk a little bit about it. And from the LA Times, in California, they had a big convention of Democrats there. The former governor of the Commonwealth was there, Deval Patrick. What he'll be able to do on the West Coast, we don't know. I don't know if Bloomberg was there or not, but Bloomberg is in the contest later. He's already pledged to spend $100 million on anti-Trump ads. And we'll be looking at all of this, but these elections, such as the one in Louisiana and the one in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, what do they say about next year? Well, basically not a lot about the 2020 election, but we take a baseball analogy. Teams usually going into the playoffs that start losing games, they have a tendency to also lose games in the playoffs. That doesn't mean they will not make the playoffs. I can think of the case of our award-winning Cubs. In several years, they were in pretty good shape and started losing some games just before the playoffs and got into the playoffs and ended up short. So that does happen sometimes, a little different there because you have a long season, 162, 63 games, arms are tired, legs are tired, etc. So it is a little different situation. But when you get in these political campaigns, that you start to see these people beating up on each other there. The little mayor has been positioning himself as a moderate. Now, this is different from Barack Obama. Barack Obama was talking about change, and he broke through in Iowa. Of course, then he lost New Hampshire, and he went on from there, and he lost Pennsylvania, some of the large states. This year is different. You have those competing elements. The top tier, still basically the top tier, Bernie and Liz Warren in the Commonwealth, they're still running there. The numbers go up and neck, and then, of course, you got Joe Biden. Joe Biden was supposed to be representing the liberal wing. I won't call it a moderate wing because he's actually a liberal, not a moderate. Whereas this right-winger from South Bend is a moderate type, the type that the third way would have out there. Very similar to Bloomberg, a little different from Bloomberg, but not very much. He's the man from Facebook. Facebook's got their people in there, and they have put money in, and he's got offices running around Iowa. And the caucus is a little bit different than the types of people that they tend to turn out. His stratagem, obviously, is to get some momentum out of Iowa and see what he can do in New Hampshire. But then he has to go to Nevada, and, of course, eventually going south to South Carolina. Followers of O.J. Simpson are waiting there. Biden will do well, no doubt, in South Carolina. and his people will have to determine where he goes from there. But I noticed the machine, as they say, the disinformation machine, the attack machine, has already attacked the governor, Patrick, former governor of the Commonwealth, talking about his brother-in-law, Singh. And evidently that was with Patrick's sister and some sexual assault charges, and now he's in jail on a sexual assault charge and the machinations involving that. That came up in a 2006 race that Governor Patrick then was running in 2006. He's a close associate of Barack Obama. And Barack Obama has warned against, quote-unquote, these revolution-type Democrats, and he's talking about Bernie and Liz Warren. It'll be an interesting situation there. And the person at least in Iowa, that's coming up from, I think, around 3% to 5% is Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar is one to watch as a sleeper, there in Iowa, but she's having some problems with the little mayor, and of course she just said that a person that is actually factually correct with a lightweight resume like his would be nowhere there. He's a mayor of a small town being South Bend. The only industry they have is Notre Dame, and that is where he is. He was not nationally known, but if you have the money to establish offices and run some ads, and the attack people really haven't attacked you very much, you can make it along. Anyway, let's go now to Uncle Karl Rove. He's writing on the 14th of November in the Wall Street Journal, where Uncle Karl always is, and he'll be our impeachment type. Impeachment becomes a comedy, pitfall comedy, but anyway, and never mind. As the impeachment hearings kick off, Democrats put on a jarring display of rhetoric, whiplash, saying one thing this time, but sometimes remarking differently the next time. Politicians often inconsistent, but this is ridiculous. Well, in late September, the whistleblower was called essential for having jump-started the process. The Representative Adam Schiff of the House Intelligence Committee thanked him for having done a cardinal service to the country by exposing wrongdoing of the most serious nature. The Speaker, Pelosi, also praised the whistleblower for disclosing to Congress a serious possible breach of constitutional duties by the president. That was in, and now that the Democrats have voted to proceed with impeachment, Schiff was appointed the lower chamber judge, jury, and execution. According to him, the whistleblower is suddenly on important. Well, part of the reason there is it's quite obvious. The whistleblower laid out a circumstantial case. Now they have the actual collaboration there, so the whistleblower has kind of disappeared behind there. From Maryland, we have Jamie Rankin, called him a hero, but agrees he's no longer integral to the investigation. Schiff announced he'll block any attempts to compel the whistleblower to testify, saying keeping his identity secret is a primary interest and more important than the hearing how he holds up on the question. He doesn't have to hold up on the question. Other people have advanced his circumstantial evidence. Pelosi frequently says that no one's above the law. She's right, but no American should be treated as beneath the law's protection either. That's what Pelosi and Schiff are doing to DJ Trump by refusing him one of our nation's most fundamental principles of jurisprudence, namely the right of the accused to cross-examine the accuser. Well, the Republicans are now able to cross-examine these various witnesses, so it doesn't really matter. America deserves to see the whistleblower appear in the hearing he sparked, so that the people can judge for themselves his credibility and motivations. Is the Senate expected to remove the president from office after a process put into high gear by an anonymous accuser who might have been coached by Schiff before launching his complaint? Well, whether he was or wasn't, it doesn't really matter, because the complaint itself was substantiated. Then there are the Democrats who proclaim a newfound enthusiasm for defending Ukraine. Former Representative Donna Edwards, she is from Maryland, was on the Fox News Sunday decrying a president of the United States who withheld aid from an ally who was on the front line against our chief adversary. Sean Patrick Maloney pinpointed the president's withhold of military aid to Ukraine as the central and subject of the impeachment inquiry. Where were the Democrats when President Obama denied lethal military assistance to Ukraine in 2014 as Vladimir Putin's forces threatened its existence? Some of the non-lethal aid President Obama authorized was dropped off in Poland and transported to Ukraine by makeshift convoys of civilian vehicles because the White House didn't want to offend the Russians by having American C-130s land in Kiev. Maybe this newfound democratic support for Ukraine is driven less by conviction than by holding of DJ Trump. Under this president, Ukraine has received Javelin anti-tank missiles and other weapons it needs to protect itself. Well, the problem with Ukraine is a very small country. It could not stand up to the Russian army, period. So it doesn't matter what kind of aid they get, lethal or not. This is really not the issue here. The issue here is process. And this is what the problem is that DJ Trump faces, period. And I think I'm on the right one here. I have to see. Now, we have we'll go ahead and do some of these numbers. Polled out from the Des Moines Register there, CNN poll has changed a little bit here. This is on Sunday, the 17th. They have Buttigieg, the South Bend mayor, Illinois' little mayor, at 25. Liz Warren at 16. Biden at 15. Also Bernie Sanders at 15. Amy Klobuchar actually went up to 6 in this poll, which is a good position for her to be at this time. And the rest of them in the single digits, including Gabbard, Steyer, Yang, and Senator Booker. Bloomberg only has 2. Well, he's not even going to campaign in the state. So that is where he is at this point in time. Let me see when I'll try to get our PDF. See where our PDF is. Not sure where we have PDF. Thought we had that PDF. If not, we'll have to bring Des Moines Registry poll out later. I don't see it here. Alright, we'll just move on here. Posts and Boston Globe models articles of Patrick or not. I think we pretty much clearly delineate problems around Patrick. Sure. Well, let me get some football scores up here from ES. Fly over to the New York Times here, and we are on that Iowa poll. Otherwise, I'll give it the Monday morning quarterback. Going to the Times-Picayune, incidentally, endorsed Governor Edwards' endorsement process. We were debating whether or not we would have a special program for this, and I'm not certain. There's times that all kinds of difficulties pop up. Anyway, well, we'll go to the LA Times and we go where we can go. Anyway, nonetheless, very big convention there. Kamala Harris, this is out in California, won the endorsement of the Farm Workers Union. Not as strong as they used to be, whereas Bernie Sanders has the California Teachers and also the Nurses Union. They endorsed. But the Farm Workers Union is not what it used to be when Cesar Chavez was there. He won that's a national group there. The endorsements coincide. This is the Weekend Democratic Party gathering in Long Beach. And they were there. Kamala Harris was there. Bernie was there, etc. They were all there at this convention. Harris campaign has multiple ties to the union. Dolores Huerta, co-founder of the group with Chavez, endorsed her, and also his granddaughter Julie Chavez Gomez is a senior advisor to Harris. Labor union has been weary about making endorsements, of course, after the early backing of Hillary Clinton in 2016. On Thursday, the United Teachers Los Angeles, that's the second largest teachers union in the U.S. with roughly 34,000 members, through its support behind Bernie. We need an unapologetic, long-standing ally of progressive politics to make public education a priority in the White House. That was the President Copito Pearl. Critically, like UTLA, Senator Sanders believes in building a national movement for real and lasting change. And on Friday, he joined representatives of National Nurses United local office in Oakland to accept their endorsement. That union has 150,000 members. He's done more than any other elected official to build the movement for Medicare for all. That's Gene Roscoe, president of the union. We have healthcare we know healthcare is a human right. Bernie is the one fighting for that. When it was his term to speak, Sanders came to the election as a crowd of nurses cheered his name. You're the backbone of American healthcare system. You do fantastic and compassionate work. He told them, I'm increasingly confident that with your support we're going to win in California. Bernie has a very good chance, actually, of winning in California. There's no doubt about that. His possibility of him winning is out there, and we'll see how that turns out in California. We'll have more on that particular situation. Let's see what else we got here going. I think we previewed this. So this is from the LA Times. Dolly Parton refuses to get involved in the political divide. This is Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Dolly Parton is in town. Everyone here knows it. That's what the two different Uber drivers told me. And the Uber drivers there, unprompted, about the power of the country music star hosts in this resort town near her hometown in the Great Smoky Mountains. When her gearing tour bus pulled up to her Dreammore Resort, it's like Air Force One has landed on the tarmac. Home to Dollywood's amusement park, a tourist destination that draws more visitors than Graceland. Pigeon Fort has become a pilgrimage site for those who worship the Church of Dolly. Parton has made the journey back east from Nashville to celebrate the release of Dolly Parton Heartstrings, an anthology series that will be premiering the 22nd. That's the anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963 on Netflix. Each of the 8 episodes is inspired by a song of her massive catalog there. While the hour-long installment varies in subject, setting, and genre and ability to reduce viewers to puddles of tears, there are quintessential Dolly offering a homespun entertainment with a little something for everyone. Religions, dogs, weddings, gun-toting cowgirls. It's all there, and so is Dolly, who introduced each episode in segments filmed at Dolly World. Yet now, at 73, she is more ubiquitous than ever after co-hosting the Country Music Awards with Reba McEntire and Carrie Underwood. That was on Wednesday night. She was celebrating 50 years in show business. That will air on the 26th of November on NBC. She's also the subject of a 9-part podcast, Dolly Parton's America, which explores her status as a uniquely unifying figure in American life at a time of intense political and cultural divide. So this is kind of interesting. It'll be on there. The singer is set up in a penthouse suite at a Dolly Moore, a hotel decorated with memorabilia from her. Despite the celebrity trappings, Parton is warm and accessible as she speculates by the nature of her appeal. People have grown up with me. They like to look at me as a family member. I am someone they know. They know my backstory, just being an all-American girl that can't come to the Cinderella story, so to speak. The allure of her rags to riches biography is on full display at Dollywood, no doubt about that. She's even got a Dolly Parton museum just arriving before Thanksgiving. Heartstrings is aimed squarely at families, many of whom may be desperate to avoid political spats over the turkey leftovers. Elizabeth Warren, of course, uses her 9 to 5 as a warm-up song. Parton exists outside of the partisan fray. At the Emmys, she performed with 9 to 5, co-star Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, who made barbecue comments clearly aimed at Trump. She's deeply political in her music, but not even going to touch it. The host of Jade, whatever his name is here, host of Dolly's America, who was inspired to make the podcast at a Dolly concert, in 2016. Sam Haskin, her producing partner, described Dolly as a little atom of consistency in a time of great uncertainty. I have my own thoughts, my own opinions, of course, Dolly says, but I don't believe that I should offend people that don't have the same opinions by voicing my own. I'm an entertainer. I can live. I can write about it. I can joke about it, lift people up in my own way, but I don't see no reason for me to get involved in political fights. Double negative there, but we'll forgive Dolly. Half of my people are Republicans, half are Democrats, and I always joke that I am hyper. In a way, I know we ever get all along, but we can get along a little bit better if we treat each other better. Asked about the prospects of a 9 to 5 pre-science of a 9 to 5. The Greckin Brown. That was 1980. I remember that. Avoided hopping on a soapbox. I worked for a lot of good men. It has been those turds like Mr. Hart, the sleazy boss played by Daphne Coleman, that we have to deal with. Speaking of 9 to 5, which turns 40 years old, Parton says she and Fonda hope to reunite to reunite for a sequel, but ultimately they didn't get to do it. Long before you had Madonna and Lady Gaga and Beyonce were moonlighting as actresses. Parton underscored the power of having an on-screen persona. She rose to fame on the performance The Porter Wagner Show. It was in the late 60s, early 70s, hosted 2 self-titled variety shows in the 70s and 80s, so she got around. Most recently, she endured herself to New Generation, playing godmother to Miley Cyrus, her real life godmother in the Disney series Hannah Montana. She narrated and executive produced a family-friendly holiday movie based on her life for NBC, Dolly Parton's Coat of Many Colors, and Dolly Parton's Christmas of Many Colors. So she's there, and Kathleen Turner is there. Anyway, Netflix is just the hottest thing going. Now we felt like it was a good movie for us to make, without having to be confined, working with traditional networks, so you have to go through so much stuff. She said this is not much of a binge watcher, but is a savvy businesswoman. Parton and Haskin presented Netflix, with a list of 15 songs to adopt before whittling them down to 8. I Always Love You. Anyway. Little House on the Prairie is an example. I was banking on the fact that there are a lot of people like me that miss that kind of stuff. Well, I suppose they are out there. Showrunner Patrick Sean Smith said he approached it with a Forrest Gump box of chocolate spirits. We wanted to not know what you're going to get. Set in the eastern Tennessee in 1940. They were a lot better off in Tennessee in 1940 than they are today. Jolene, something of a twist. The character, a bartender and aspiring musician, played by Julian Hogg, is more sympathetic than the Jolene of the song. Let me finish this up here. We see her a long time ago. This is a long article. I'd forgotten how long it was when I first read it. Storytelling is my Smoky Mountain DNA, is in my Smoky Mountain, citing the history of ballots passed down by the Irish, the Scotch, and the Welsh immigrants who settled the area. And she has been entertaining families for decades, starting with her own. She likes the songs she began writing as a child, little movies she used to amuse her siblings. Well, so you start out young. I have a gift of rhyme and a big imagination, and that's just how I started, she said. Now I am still going. All right, well. That was Dolly Parton and Dolly Land. I should check the movie out if you're into old-time entertainment. Very old-time entertainment. One other thing here. We still have a feature on Emil Morales. Bolivia, 9 or 10 people have already died. A lot of problems in Bolivia. So let me just run on here. We're going to do sports, so we'll do Colin Kaepernick. He was scheduled to do a workout down in Atlanta. He didn't attend it. On-signed Colin Kaepernick, this is from the BBC here, chose not to attend, and NFL arranged a private workout instead of holding his own session at a high school to allow the media to attend. He said he wanted a transparency, claiming the NFL denied media access to its own planned workout in Atlanta. All 32 clubs were invited by the NFL to assess Kaepernick, who last played in 2016, who began his kneeling campaign that was in protest of police brutality and racism throughout the country. NFL said it was disappointed the venue changed at 30-minute notice. Representatives from 25 clubs had shown up at the Atlanta Falcons training camp expecting to see Mr. Kaepernick, but he was no-show there, addressing the media huddle when his workout finished at Charles R. Drew High School in Riverdale. And Kaepernick said, our biggest thing was making sure we had transparency in what went on. We are not getting that anywhere, so we came out here, and it's important you all are here, the media. You've all been attacked for the last 3 years. You continue to be attacked, and we appreciate what you all do. Quarterback of the Frisco 49ers, I've been ready for 3 years, and I've been denied for 3 years. We have nothing to hide, so we waited for the 32 owners and 32 teams, Commissioner Goodell, to stop running, and stop running from the truth, and stop running from the people. My agent's ready to talk to any team. I will continue to be ready. So this is part of our sports here. Anyway, the venue was 1 hour from the scheduled location. No one got a heads up until the NFL showed it on the statement from on Twitter. In a long statement, the league said that it had made a considerable effort to work with Kaepernick's representatives, adding that we were disappointed that he did not appear for the workout because the decision has no effect on his status in the league. He remains an unrestricted free agent. He can sign with any club. And it's good he made his point like that, announcing the change of venue. From the statement, from the outset, Mr. Kaepernick requested a legitimate process, and from the outset, the NFL League office had not provided one. Most recently, the NFL had demanded that, as a precondition to the workout, that he sign an unusual liability waiver that addressed employment-related issues and rejected the standard liability label for physical injury posed by Mr. Kaepernick's representative. Kaepernick, who is a free agent after the 2016 season, remains on sign. He filed a grievance against the owners. That was in October of 2017 after going as on signed a free agent. The two sides resolved the grievance in February on the confidential agreement there. So we have a confidential situation going somewhere here. We had some more scores. Sure, we have the college scores here or not. And we'll see if the ESPN part here. Let's pause. This is okay. Let me give you some of these college football scores. Number 5, Alabama, 38-7 over Mississippi State. Florida, number 11, 23-6. I think that's over Mizzou. And Penn State finally won another game. They were 34-27 over Indiana. Michigan, number 15, 44-10 over Michigan State, I believe. And Wisconsin beat Nebraska. The Big Red Machine is not moving. Number 14, 37-21. And Navy over North Dakota, actually 52-21. 20 over Navy. LSU is Governor Governor Edwards, 58 to 37 over Mississippi. Cincinnati 20 to 27 over USF. Oklahoma 31 over Baylor. Very close game there. Defeated by number 7 Utah 49 to the University of New Mexico, I believe, and BSU defeated them 42 to 9. And the Oregon Ducks 37 to 6 over Arizona. Some of the headlines here. The Alabama quarterback incidentally got a season-ending injury there, so he's gone for the season. Georgia was 21 to 14 over Auburn, and that was 34 to 31 over Baylor. We got the Oregon Ducks. They beat Arizona 34 to 6. Boise State 40 lurking here, and I think that was all we had lurking here. I think we gave the NCAA, yeah, we did, a football score, so we'll dispense with those. Let me see what else on the week that was. I think basically that is the week that was, but we'll leave you with a final takeaway here. The maximum by the late Thomas P. Tip O'Neill was a Congress type from Boston, and he was the Speaker of the House. He said that all politics are local, and that proved to be an actual event. The actual event in Louisiana, that the people of Louisiana rallied against whatever nationalization of the campaign that DJ Trump tried. The problem with nationalizing the campaign, in some areas it works, but when it gets to the point it doesn't work, the wheels fall off, as President Obama used to say. And that's the end of that. And that basically is the end. Now, DJ Trump and his nationalization, will that work? They're looking very, very carefully at it. Now, Louisiana is one of these states that he won, by 20 or 30 points. And he won in Kentucky, I believe, by 30 points. So this gets to be a situation that you start looking, at the Midwest. You think, first of all, states that, like Wisconsin, that he narrowly won there. You think of Michigan. You think of Pennsylvania. You start dealing with turnout. And if turnout is very robust in those states, it's just simple that DJ Trump cannot win. He doesn't have enough horses in the corral. So therefore, he's in trouble. Now, in this turn sometime in the spillover, what will happen in Ohio? He has to win Ohio. Every Republican has to march through Ohio. So in other words, there's not a lot of things to happen. In an election, you start going that way. Then you start looking at, say, New Hampshire and some of these other states, even Florida and North Carolina. And as one poll said, Georgia was in play. He cannot afford to lose either Florida or North Carolina. His re-election campaign is sunk. Now, there were some retail numbers out. I think it's 0.3% retail sales went up. But these things are piddly type of numbers, not very good numbers at all. We'll have on Numbers Man, we'll look at the latest numbers and where they are, and what's happening with Brexit in the UK. Parties are promising all sorts of things. The Labour Party is pointing to within a decade free internet service. The Tory Party is they expand their broadband service. The UK has less than 20% of the people have what is called actual broadband in the UK. So it is an issue to move forward with, and at the same time there's unrest in Lebanon, there's unrest in Chile, there's the makings almost of a civil war in Bolivia, and in Baghdad the bridge is blocked. I mean, it's just a long history of things happening in virtually every country, and of course in Hong Kong. The banks, many of the big banks are thinking whether they should remain in the city. And at the same time, one university, larger universities, has abandoned this semester's work, and several other universities, flashpoint going on there. And in Paris, demonstrators are coming back. The so-called yellow vests are returning. They were off in the summer, but they're back, talking about income inequality there in France. So in other words, you're having problems in all of these nations. And I was listening to a BBC program tonight on older workers past retirement. They were talking about a new issue here, pension justice. And that would be more of an issue. It'd be interesting that Bernie and Liz Warren work on that with pensions, with all of us senior types, thinking about what is going on. That's basically inequality in France with the Due de Jean. And there, and of course in Baghdad, the prices of petrol has doubled. So people are not very happy about that. So you just have unrest all over the place, except in the USA. We did, however, this week have a teacher strike, a one-day teacher strike in Little Rock, Arkansas, protesting the state takeover of Little Rock schools. And it was very, very successful there. We covered it. And it's similar to the state takeover of the Newark, New Jersey schools by, at the time, Teuton, what's his name, was there, as the governor of Christie. I almost forgot his name. He hadn't been around so long. Anyway, so they've moved on. So we've seen these state takeovers of various schools around the country, and hasn't provided the type of education that we would have expected it to happen. Teacher size, pay, same old situation we have going on constantly. It's the but the state also issued, and we'll get down to Monday morning quarterback, an inmate on death row in the state of Texas. Nonetheless, have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you on the Monday morning quarterback as on the Boston Red Side Up Political Channel. We have, incidentally, an open source report. We encourage you to check it out. And Numbers Man will be coming up shortly. Good day.
Jacksonville. The child was born who couldn't sit still. 86 years later with no regret. You know that man can't sit still yet. The Great Depression couldn't get him down. Worked for his dad's store in town, collecting money in small amounts for poor whites and blacks in their furniture accounts. Stetson Kennedy wants us all to be free. Stetson Kennedy wants us all to be free. As he'd collect, he'd talk to folks. He'd hear legends, tales, songs, and jokes. Now this fine treasure he'd record and write. Colorblind, didn't see black and white. Writer's project for the WPA. Zora Neale Hurston, he earned his pay. The crackers and blacks, they talked for hours. It was a barefoot history, this land of flowers.